everybody, and welcome back to Lindsay's Little Library. So I am here today. It's October 1st, and I'm beyond excited. October is one of those months that I love to read, and I love to find books that scare the crap out of me. It's pretty much my goal every October, has been for a while. I'm such a fan of scary stories, of creepy stories, of twisty stories, and suspenseful stories, and witchy stories, and all that fun stuff. So, in honor of October, and it has 31 days, and it's full of creepiness and fantastic books, we're going to do a little bit of a 31 books of Halloween. So I have 31 books that I've read that I've pulled off my shelf quickly. I didn't give myself a lot of time to think about this because I feel like I would want to share 67 books with you and not just 31. And I'm sticking with 31 because we don't need to be here for hours talking about all of the thrillery books that I love. So here are 31 books that I think y'all should pick up in October. Do I expect you to read 31 books in October? No. If you did, fantastic. I'm not going to do that. But I'm thinking this is a really good variety of some fun, spooky, creepy reads. And a little bit of humor in here too for October. So let's get started, okay? Now, some of these shouldn't be a surprise for you because I have talked about them a number of times before, but we're going to start off strong with one of my favorite authors to read in October. Not that one. Jennifer McMahon. So I have The Night Sister. This one was the one that kind of got me hooked on Jennifer McMahon. She does a bit of creepy with a little bit of paranormal creatures involved as well. And it's fantastic. So this one, it's 1950s. Actually, we have a couple of timelines going on here. I think there's 3 timelines. So we have a Tower Motel. We have some creepiness that's taking place there with Amy, Piper, and Piper's sister Margot. And then we have present day around this now abandoned Tower Motel and trying to figure out what happened in the past. Mystery past, mystery present, unreliable, everything. And it's, don't read it in the dark. So my challenge today is going to be not to spoil any books, to give you enough to make you want to read them, but not spoil anything. Next up, we have another one of my faves, Simone St. James. This woman can write a ghost story like no other woman that I have found. Oh, Darcy Coates is close though. But man alive, can she write a ghost story? And The Broken Girls is probably my favorite one. Simone St. James has a way of writing a story that you feel like you are there. You are with her. It's insane. The books that I've read, I have smelled cigarette smoke. I have heard noises. She does such a great job transporting you to the story. This one follows an old boarding school for like kind of troubled girls that was in Vermont in 1950. It was called Idlewild Hall. I can still picture this clear as day. And there's rumors that it is haunted. And then we have present day where Fiona is trying to figure out what exactly happened to her older sister who died 20 years ago and was found at this land where this boarding school is. And there's Black Mary, the ghost, and so fantastic. Again, Simone St. James writes some ghosts that are they're just pissed off, and it's awesome. Next one I want to talk about is my friend Riley Sager. Currently reading one of his books and then loving it. Final Girls was the first one I read. This follows, I think, 3 or 4 girls who survived and were considered final girls. 3 of them. They survived some sort of mass killing and they were the only ones left. And now they're starting to be picked off one by one. Fantastic. And The Lock Every Door is about staying in this very, very upper class building as kind of a housemate or house tenant or house sitter. But there's some rules, and they're very strange rules for staying in this apartment building. You cannot have any visitors. You cannot spend a night away from the apartment. No disturbing the other residents, like don't even talk to them, because they're rich and famous, but there's other reasons. And it's full of mysteries, and both of them full of mysteries, and the whodunits are just on point in both of these books. Next up, another one, Girl in the Mirror by Rose Carlyle. Twin sisters who are identical on the outside, but very, very different personalities on the inside, and they kind of come head to head. Is all I'm going to say. So there we go. Again, don't want to spoil things, but give you enough. Next one, Alice Feeney, fell in love with her this year. Read Rock, Paper, Scissors, very amazing isolated thriller. This would be great to read during a snowstorm or a cold, windy night. We have a couple who is they're trying to rekindle their relationship. Their marriage has kind of stalled out. It's not what it once was. And so they decide to go stay at this Airbnb in Scotland. And they get there and it's very isolated and some creepy things start happening. And it's so fantastic. Then I have Fierce Kingdom. This is by Jen Phillips. I've talked about this one a number of times. This one is scary because it involves a hostage situation at a zoo. So this mother and son go to a zoo every afternoon. They love spending time there, and towards closing time, they hear gunshots going off, and the zoo is kind of taken hostage, and so they have to hide. But her son isn't that old. He's like he's at that age, he's 4. So not at an age where it's like you tell them to be quiet and they can understand how to be quiet, but he's 4. And she's like, how do I keep him safe? How do I hide, keep him quiet, try to get out? Very suspenseful and it's scary because it could really happen. So loved this book. I'm just gonna keep picking up the piles I have down here. Next one I have is Something in the Water by Catherine Steadman. The beginning of this book is epic. I love the very first line. I will never forget it. Let me get to it so I can tell you what it is. Chapter 1, The Grave. Have you ever wondered how long it takes to dig a grave? Wonder no longer. It takes an age. However long you think it takes, double that. Why we dig in a grave in the very first chapter. Don't worry, it explains. But basically this couple is on I think their honeymoon. Yes, their dream honeymoon to Bora Bora. It's just them. They are disconnecting from everybody else. They decide to go scuba diving and there's something in the water. So good. Next one I want to talk about, Chevy Stevens. Again, she writes these characters that you can't help but fall in love with, and you can't figure out how the heck they are going to get through whatever they're given. So that night we follow Tony. I don't want to spoil anything. She's an adolescent full of complications, boyfriend she adores, younger sister she couldn't relate to, and a strained relationship with her parents and classmates who seem pretty on point for making her life absolutely miserable. Things weren't easy, but Tony could never have predicted how horrific they would become until her younger sister was brutally murdered one summer night, and her boyfriend was convicted of the murder and sent to prison, along with herself. Oh, I can still remember reading this book and trying to figure out it's fantastic. Anything by Chevy Stevens is fantastic. Next one I have is Every Last Fear by Alex Finley. This was his debut novel. It says they found the bodies on a Tuesday. It traces the fate of the Pine family, and it's a thriller that will both leave you at the edge of your seat and move you to tears. It kind of what happened to this family. I think they were in Mexico. Yeah, when they were vacationing in Mexico. Very good. I have a couple witchy books for you guys. I have The Wicked Deep. This is a YA book. This is by Shay Earnshaw, but I absolutely loved this. And let's just talk about that. Gorgeous. So this is the Swan Sisters. They've basically been haunting Sparrow, Oregon since 1822. They were, executed for witchcraft, and they've been pretty much haunting this town ever since. When do they come out? For a brief time each summer, the sisters return, stealing bodies of 3 troubled girls so that they may seek their revenge, luring boys into Sparrow's Harbor and pulling them under. Yes, all the witchy vibes, along with How to Hang a Witch by Adriana Mather, who also wrote a second book to this one. So there is a part 2 if you want. So this one, Salem, Massachusetts, it's the site of the famous witch trials and now home to 16-year-old Samantha Mather. She recently moved there from New York City. She's not really welcomed with open arms. because she's a descendant of Cotton Mather, who was one of the men responsible for, you know, the witch trials. And almost immediately she becomes the enemy of a group of girls who call themselves the Descendants. You can probably guess who their ancestors were, and it goes from there. Another YA, but a good witchy fall vibe book. Let's keep going. We're almost there. I don't even know what number we're on. We have The Lake by Natasha Preston. This one is really great because I read this at the lake. But we basically have Camp Pine Lake. There are two girls who come back as counselors. They had gone to this camp in the past and something had happened while they were there. They're kind of coming back to figure out and find some answers to that mystery from the past. So, another one. I wouldn't, not super scary, yet would be good. Like, I wouldn't mind if my daughters read this one, like that kind of level of scary, if that's what you're looking for. Next one I have more suspenseful. We have is The Overnight Guest by Heather Gutenkopf. We have our main character, Wiley, and she has decided to go kind of seclude herself a little bit. She's an author. She's trying to finish her book. So she's retreated to this isolated farmhouse. There's a storm outside. She's built a cozy fire. She's going to hunker down and finish her book. Well, during this storm, she discovers a small child in the snow just outside the door, half frozen, absolutely freezing, no idea where this child came from. She brings her in for warmth and safety and starts bringing up some things from the past that are connected to this house that she's staying in. And it's so good. This is probably one of my favorite Heather Gutenkopf books, like slam dunk. It was fantastic. Another really great like detective mystery one is Hello Transcriber by Hannah Morsey. This one I think also has a second one, but this is from the perspective of a police transcriber. So this Hazel is working for the police department and she has to type up all of these reports of these horrible crimes that have been happening. And she starts to kind of see some things that maybe were missed. And then her neighbor confesses to something and she gets involved. And it takes place in Wisconsin. Bonus, right? Next one we have another more suspenseful one. We have Hostage by Claire McIntosh. So we have our main character who is a flight attendant and she decides to kind of volunteer and trade with somebody to take this specific flight from London to Sydney, and it gets hijacked and we go from there. And there's more to this than I expected, and I was really surprised by that, and I really, really enjoyed that. So if you're thinking it's just a hijacked airplane, go into it, it's a little bit more than that. I don't know if that's a spoiler or not, but just trust me. Next one I have Scary Stories, More Tales to Chill Your Bones. This is number 3. I have 1 and 2 somewhere in this house. I just can't find them. I loved these books when I was a kid. I have read some of these stories again since then, and I want to say the one that I continue to think about, or like that has stuck with me, and I want to say it's one of these first ones, but it's the girl who wakes up and she has the pimple on her face and it turns out to be all baby spiders. Yeah, The Red Spot. This one. Still think about this one. But they're short, scary stories. A nice little nostalgia back to, gosh, when was this even published? You know, 1900s, 1991. So, next one I have, again, another like just psychological more-ish, is The Last Mrs Parish by Liv Constantine. Love, love, love this book. We have Amber Patterson. She's tired of being nobody. She doesn't want to be invisible. She wants to have a life of money and power. And there's one person out there, Daphne, who takes it for granted, and she just doesn't like that. So Amber kind of infiltrates Daphne's life and goes from there. And I loved it. Next one I have Unmissing by Minka Kent. I know I've talked about this quite a bit this year because I just read it this year, but basically a happy married couple, the wife ends up getting kidnapped and goes missing. We are, how many years later? It doesn't say. I want to say like 10 years later or something. And she shows up at the door of her husband and his new wife. And now what? It's good. All right. Okay, next up I have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, another kind of YA story about our main character. What's her name? Andy. Oh wait, no, that's not our main character. The next one I want to talk about is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This follows our main character, Pip. She has decided for her final project for her senior year of high school, she's going to re-examine a cold case that happened where they are. Can't go, nothing, that's not going to lead to anything crazy. It's good. Next one I have is The Last. This is by Hannah Jameson. This one is super interesting, not necessarily scary, but somewhat scary. So we have a historian, John, and he's on a work trip in Switzerland. While he's there, kind of the world ends. Something has happened. A nuclear attack has happened. There's 200,000 fatalities. There is nuclear fallout. The world is ending. And he's stuck in this hotel with 20 people and figuring out what to do and where to go from there. So, a little different take on a creepy book, but still a creepy book. So the next one I want to talk about is from Jennifer Hillier, like queen of thrillery books. Jar of Hearts is by far her favorite one that I have of hers. So we have really interesting setup here. So we have, what's her name? Geo, right? Georgina Shaw. She's an executive, rising star in a major Seattle company. Never would have been thought to have been involved in some sort of crime in the past. Well, her best friend's body is discovered and she is one of the main suspects. She gets arrested and goes to prison for this. She's recently released and is determined to actually figure out what really did happen to her best friend. And it's so good. Next one I have actually takes place in Michigan, not far from me. We have The Marsh King's Daughter by Karen Diane. We have Helena, has a loving husband, 2 beautiful daughters, and is a business that fills her days. Little did we know that her secret is she's a product of an abduction. Her mother was kidnapped by her father, and she lived with that for quite a few years before she kind of got out and the truth was realized. And so she's still dealing with what happened, and we go from there. Yeah, it's good. And it's short. It's one of these like quick, like you could read this in one sitting because it's that good. Same with this one, another short one, Gillian Flynn, Sharp Objects. We have Camille. Camille is just out of a psych hospital. She is a cutter. And she's returning to her hometown where there's murders of 2 preteen girls. That maybe is a repeat of the past. Again, short, quick book. But I mean, it's Gillian Flynn. She's gonna pack a punch. Almost there. I can't do a 31 books of Halloween without talking about Karen Slaughter. Oh, if you want some gruesome, raw, scary, thrillery vibes, she's your girl. This one, it follows The Good Daughter. I've also read Pretty Girls. Just go into them and don't just be open to just about anything because she's gonna take you on a wild ride. This one, it says 2 girls are forced into the woods at gunpoint. 1 runs for her life and 1 is left behind. And it's so good. Then we have A Flicker in the Dark by Stacy Willingham. Also read this one this year. This one follows our main character, Chloe. When she was 12, 6 teenage girls went missing in her Louisiana town. By the end of summer, her own father had confessed to the crimes and was put away for life. 20 years later, some of these crimes are happening again, and yet her father is still in prison, trying to figure out where's the correlation, what's going on here. And it's good. Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. Definitely the best B.A. Paris book I have read. You can skip all the other ones, but this is fantastic. This one is domestic thriller, perfect marriage, or is it the perfect lie? What happens behind closed doors type of a setting. Full-on domestic thriller. It's fantastic. Then we have An Unwanted Guest by Sherry LaPina. Also Couple Next Door, solid thrillery recommendation by her as well. This one is Weekend Retreat at a Cozy Mountain Lodge. It's supposed to be the perfect getaway, but then the storm hits and no one is getting away. Another solid isolated thriller. We have another school-based one. We have Good Girls Lie by J.T. Ellison. So this one, this good school, is for kind of like the Ivy League elite of girls to go to. Because of who they are, there are some maybe sinister things happening at this school that just kind of get brushed under the rug until they can't ignore them anymore because, you know, dead bodies show up. So good. If you're looking for more of a middle grade witchy vibe story, we have The Only Thing Worse Than Witches by Lauren Magaziner. So this one's super cute. We have Rupert, and he really can't stand his teacher. And trust me, she's not a great teacher. She smells like mushy bananas and belly button lint. And she forbids the classmates from talking to each other. So when he sees an ad to become a witch's apprentice, Rupert simply just can't resist. So he becomes the apprentice to witchling number 2 as she's trying to take her tests and pass and become an actual witch. And the hijinks between these two is just hilarious. Emily and I thoroughly enjoyed this while we read this. Definitely a good October vibes if you're looking for a witchy book to read with the kids. Next one I have is The Hiding Place by C.J. Tudor. Another kind of more creepy setting. So we have Joe. He never really wanted to come back to his hometown, especially after how things ended with his old gang, the betrayal and the suicide, and what happened when his sister went missing. The last thing he wants is to return to his hometown, but Joe doesn't have a choice, not after a chilling email surfaces that says, "I know what happened to your sister and it's happening again." I mean, what do you do? You gotta go. And things happen. Another suggestion, if you want some more like zombie paranormal vibes, we have Red Hill by Jennifer McGuire. I feel like this is not talked about enough around here. So basically what happens if the world ends and there's a zombie apocalypse? We have Scarlett. She takes her 2 daughters and what she does, the decisions she makes, and how she tries to keep things safe. And it's good. And then the last one I have, we have The Hunger by Alma Katsu. This is kind of taking what would happen or what this author thinks happened to the Donner Party. The only way to explain the series of misfortunes that plagued the Wagon Trail known as the Donner Party is this is what potentially has happened. And it's creepy. Oh, it's creepy. This one might be one you put in the freezer. So anyways, those are my 31 books for Halloween. Go pick something out. I mean, if you've read any of them, let me know below, or if there's a book on here that maybe I should have instead of another one. I take suggestions too, because I'm loving creepy books. I have an idea of the books I want to read for October, but I'm kind of just going to let my mood take me where it is. So yeah, I'm hoping I scare myself at least once. That's always the goal. Anyways, comment below, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I'll see you next time. Bye.